I'm a corporate solicitor, and in this video, I will show you exactly how to create different classes of shares for your UK limited company. To make things as easy as possible for you, I'm going to share my screen so you can see exactly what needs to be done step by step. Also linked in the description below, templates that you can easily download right now. If you download the templates and you follow this video, by the end of this video, you will have successfully created different classes of shares without spending thousands on legal fees. But first, why would you want to create different classes of shares? Well, firstly, you can retain voting rights if, for example, the other shares that you're creating have no voting rights or fewer voting rights compared to your shares. Secondly, it allows for more flexible distribution of the company's profits, because if you want to, you can declare different kinds of dividends or different amounts of dividends for different classes of shares for your company. Third, you can make the shares redeemable so that the company can buy them back if wanted. For example, if you want to give some shares to an employee and that employee leaves or leaves on bad terms, you can specify that you can buy those shares back as the company. And lastly, it also allows you to create preference shares that oftentimes investors want to have, which guarantee a rate of return for investors, whilst allowing you to raise equity finance. Okay, fantastic, and let's get started. So the first thing that you need to do is download my templates. The link to the templates is in the description of this video. With the templates, you receive custom articles of association that are being prepared by myself that allow you to, number one, create alphabet shares, meaning different classes of shares for different shareholders. Secondly, make the shares easily redeemable if that is what you want. Third, create preference shares, for example, for your investors. And lastly, specify whether different shares have voting rights or not. If you're looking for a more tailored, done-for-you service, and maybe even more comprehensive articles of association, feel free to email me at info@zoppi.co.uk. My fee for this service is typically £1,400 plus VAT. But if instead you're looking for a simpler, do-it-yourself option, pause the video now and download the templates. Once these have been downloaded, come back to this video so that we can get started. Now, if you want to create different classes of shares as part of setting up a new limited company, you'll only need to focus on drafting the articles of association. So once you've downloaded my templates, you just need to finalize the articles of association, which I will show you how to do. And then use these when incorporating the limited company on Companies House. Companies House will ask you if you want to use the bespoke articles of association or if you want to use the model ones. So this is where you click on yes, I want to use the bespoke ones, and upload the ones that you've drafted using my template. Further, Companies House will also ask you, as part of its online questionnaire, about the different classes of shares that you're creating. Simply follow the questionnaire and make sure that your answers to Companies House match what you've put in the articles of association. So, for example, if you put in the articles that you're creating an additional 2 classes of shares, so the base ordinary shares plus A ordinary and B ordinary, then when completing the questionnaire of Companies House, you want to allot these different classes of shares as well. You want to create these different classes as well. Fantastic. Let's get started, assuming that the limited company already exists, and instead now we're just looking to create additional classes of shares for investors or family members. The first thing that we need to do is open up the templates that you downloaded. The very first document that we want to look at is the step-by-step guide. Okay, so you should now be able to see my screen. This is the step-by-step guide right here. We've got 11 main steps, starting with step number 1, which is to draft the applications for the shareholders, asking to be allotted the new shares. So that's document A. You'll see in the zip file that you downloaded that I named the different documents according to the order the things need to be done. So document A is this one. And each applicant, so each person that's going to be receiving the shares, needs to sign their own document. You as a company can draft the document and then simply ask them to sign it and return it to you. But in short, we need to put your company's details here because they're sending this letter to the company. Again, your company name here, the name of the subscriber for the shares, the new shareholder, and their address, the number and type of shares that they're going to be receiving, and so on. Their name, and then they sign. So that needs to be repeated for each new subscriber. So each person that's receiving shares. Great. Moving on to step number 2, which is to draft the amended articles of association to detail the different classes of shares. So we look at document B right here. That's document B. First thing is you'll need to specify your company name and company number here. And To easily identify where you must make amendments, you can simply search for a square bracket, okay? And effectively, it will be Articles 30, this one right here, this table, and Article 32. So to make it as easy as possible, I've created tables so that you don't have to go and amend text if you don't want to amend the text. Really, what I've done here is simply taken the model articles of association and slightly amended them to enable the easy creation of different classes of shares. So depending on how many different classes your company has, you can either remove rows or add rows. Then you need to specify the nominal value of each of the shares. This you will have decided when creating the shares. It doesn't need to be the market value. Nominal value and market value is very different. Nominal value is typically just £1, which is the amount of money that if the company goes under, the shareholders of the company must have to pay off creditors. Market value is very different. So if you have an investor and they're going to pay you, for example, £100 per share, nominal value will be £1 likely. And then there will be the premium. So what they're paying on top of the nominal value will be £99. And then here you'll need to specify how many shares are in issue for each kind. And then the issued share capital will be the sum of this times this. So let's say that there are 100 shares of £1 each. Then share capital for the ordinary shares is £100. Let's say that this all remains the same. And that makes it £400. If the nominal value here was 2, and now number is issued 100, then this goes up by 100. Because it's 2 times 100 is £200 plus £300 is £500. Okay. Fantastic. Then moving on to Article 32. This is where you go and specify the different rights and restrictions that are attached to each of the classes of shares. So, for example, ordinary shares, typically for the founders, do they carry the right to vote? If you want to say yes, then you remove the square brackets. If you want to say no, then you just put no, and so on. So you can really customize this as much as you want, really, within the confines of the law, and so on. So these are the different rights that you can attach. Coming back to the step-by-step guide, step number 3 is to draft the board minutes. So the rest is really quite standard. You simply look for the square brackets and you replace the square brackets and the suggested text with your relevant information. So here again, your company's number, company name, where the meeting was held, and so on. Okay, fine. Same thing with step number 4. You want to draft the written resolution. This document D, again, I've tried to draft it as much as possible so that you can input as little information as possible. But again, you will see where information is required because there is square brackets, okay? Same thing with the share certificates, but with the share certificates, you'll need to produce one per shareholder that's receiving the new shares. So if you've got 3 new shareholders, then they each receive a share certificate. And you'll need to specify their details right here, the number of shares that they're receiving and the kind of shares, and so on. Coming back to the guide, until now, up until step number 5, we've really just prepared the documents. Now we need to actually go on and execute these documents. So the first thing that we need to do is hold a board meeting. Okay, so board meetings are with directors of the company. During the board meeting, you'll need to discuss whether the board of directors is pro or against, for example, the issuing of these different classes of shares. If they're pro, then you move on and ask the shareholders whether they're also in favor of creating these different classes of shares. So the shareholders will sign the written resolution, which is the one that we drafted as step number 4, document D. Once that has been signed by enough people, then the chairperson signs the board minutes, which we drafted at document C. Then we move on to step number 9, which is to sign and deliver the share certificates to the relevant shareholders. So typically it's 2 directors, or a director and a witness, or a director and a secretary would sign each of the share certificates and then deliver these to the relevant shareholders. And the last step before we file anything at Companies House is to update the statutory registers, which is document F. This is document F right here. And the statutory registers really are the internal document, and they're very much like a spreadsheet. And they record important information about the company, such as who are the shareholders, directors, and the people of significant control. So once you've listed, for example, in the register of members, who are all the shareholders, their residential address, and so on, and the amount and type of shares held, then you've really finished the internal documentation requirements, and we can come back to the step-by-step guide and move on with filing the relevant documents at Companies House. We've got three main things that need to be filed here, unless, of course, you've issued enough shares so that someone becomes the person of significant control. If that is the case, then you'll need to submit the relevant form as well to update Companies House of this new person with significant control. So the very first thing you need to do is file the written resolution at Companies House. You can use the link that I've linked right here to do it electronically. Electronically is typically easier and quicker. You can also file paper copies typically by post, but again, typically that will take a little bit longer. So you go here, you scroll down, click on Start Now, sign into your Companies House account. If you don't have one yet, then you'll need to create one. Then you need to put your company's registration number. I'm putting my company's as an example, GZ Legal. Okay, confirm. And then here you'll need to click on Change of Constitution because we're adopting new articles of association. So click that. And then Resolution. You need to input your company's authentication code as given by Companies House. Then there will be the option to upload a document. You upload the written resolution, signed, and then start the process again for the articles of association. So the process will be the same, but instead of clicking on resolution here, you click on articles. And again, you do the same thing, authentication code, upload the document, and that's it. Coming back to the guide, the last thing that we need to do is file the form SH01. So that's the return confirming that there has been allotment, therefore also a change in the share capital of the company. So you can do so via your web filing account. So once you've logged in, you should be able to see your company's page right here. You will click on All Forms, then Share Capital, Return of Allotment of Shares, Start Now, and complete the questionnaire as requested by Companies House. Fantastic, you have now successfully created different classes of shares without spending thousands on legal fees. If you've got any questions, feel free to put them in the comments below. I promise I will answer any questions that you may have. And if you want to learn more about the differences between ordinary and preferred shares, watch this video right here. It might give you some ideas as to how you want to structure your company's shareholding. Thank you for watching.